You're listening to the Unlocking Africa podcast.
I'm the founding partner of Adaverse. I started my career 16 years ago as a product manager. I think it's a really good thing. I really like this mindset that African founders have to solve the real world issues. We really love to see that founders have the innovation and openness for new technologies and willingness to try new things. During the course of product design, the founder and the team need to think how to make it work for local users. So adaptation is very important. We try our best to connect the founders and expose them with the various global resources.
Stay tuned as we bring you inspiring people who are unlocking Africa's economic potential. You're listening to the Unlocking Africa podcast with your host, Tessa Adamu.
Welcome to the Unlocking Africa podcast, where we find inspirational people who are doing inspirational things to unlock Africa's economic potential. Today, we have Vincent Li, who is the founding partner of Adaverse, which is the Cardano Ecosystem Accelerator that aggregates entrepreneurs, strategists, and mentors in Africa. Adaverse supports blockchain founders with funds, mentorship, and tech. Welcome to the podcast, Vincent. How are you?
Hey, Tessa. I'm good. Very happy to be here. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast and looking forward to the conversation. So, I'm not sure if you've listened to the podcast before, but I usually like to start from the beginning. So could you please introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about Vincent Li?
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for this opportunity. My name is Vincent Li. I'm the founding partner of Adaverse. Actually, I started my career 16 years ago as a product manager. And I remember at that time, everything was quite static. We call it Web 1 so far. And then I started my first startup by 2015, where I entered into Web 2. So I built a news aggregator called Qitoutiao in China. And then it went viral. And it got listed in NASDAQ 2.5 years later in early 2018. And after that, I started business in Africa in early 2019. I founded Future Hub, a seed fund and incubator backing African startups and founders. And I did some exits. And then in early 2021, my journey in Web3 started. I founded Adaverse together with a few venture building in Web3. And so far, as the Web3 seed fund and accelerator, Adaverse have already invested more than 54 Web3 companies across different parts of the world, including Africa, Asia, and Middle East. And so far, I'm still on the way of building and investing in Web3, Web2, general tech companies, and I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you for that overview. So you've detailed your journey starting as a product manager, started your first startup in 2015, your first kind of foray or entrance into the African market was 2019, which has led you to Adaverse. So if you can give us a bit more detail regarding the story behind the founding of Adaverse.
Yeah, sure. I still remember that it was a fantastic starting. At that time, actually, I was already in Africa for a few years, and I saw the huge potential of blockchain and Web3 technology in Africa, which can really solve the real world problems. And at the same time, the Cardano, actually the Emergo, the founding entity of Cardano blockchain, was also looking to extend their presence in Africa, supporting Web3 companies. And then I remember it was a very good conversation when we met each other. So as a kind of a GP, I was very happy to be backed by Emergo so that we can start one of the very first Web3 seed fund accelerator Adaverse in the continent.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. So you mentioned that you saw the huge potential in blockchain to solve some of the challenges in the market. So from your perspective, what benefits can this ecosystem bring to the African economy? Maybe if we look specifically at addressing challenges such as financial inclusion and payment infrastructure.
Yes. Actually, I saw a very big potential leveraging blockchain and Web3 technology in Africa. So as we know, in Africa, we have the not that stable currency, and also we see a lot of people that they are not yet financial included. So in such kind of environment, actually we see the big potential for African market to leapfrog the current Web2 solutions, where quite a few very big cross-border remittance companies charge very high rates, like 15% of transaction fees for each cross-border transaction. But if you look at the solution based on Web3 and blockchain, let's say the specific case of making a peer-to-peer transaction from Africa to other parts of the world, let's say UK, then basically you can do the transaction in less than 1 minute with a very minimum fee, like less than $1. So basically, this type of solution is very innovative and disruptive, and it's very good for everyday users in Africa to save money, save time, and to achieve the financial inclusion. So if you look at what we have invested in Africa, quite a lot of the companies tackling the money transfer and remittance problems. Let's say AfriX, BitMama, Onboard, and quite a lot of others. So they have a different positioning and different targeted groups, but they all leverage blockchain technology and in a Web3 way to really add value to the market. So I see big potential, and also it is already happening. So far, most of our companies, they're doing very healthy transfer volume and really solve the big issue for users to make cross-border transfer between their relatives and friends. So I'm very happy to see that.
So for the people who are listening who aren't familiar with blockchain, what is the infrastructure behind the smart innovations and technology? What infrastructure is required to achieve some of these great things that you're talking about?
Yeah, so for this case, I can see two layers of infrastructure. So the fundamental layer is the blockchain itself. So as you know, let's say the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the other major chains, they are kind of distributed ledger, right? So once you transfer certain currency to others, then a record is occurred. And that record is kept not by only one person, but by many nodes and many people. So it can keep a very big transparency. And on top of it is second layer, which is more like a Web3. So because the blockchain is just a pure technology, people still need to have a good user base. They need to have a good interface, and they need a very good process and a very easy to use products to carry out the transfer. And that is why different companies, they build their own product interface, and they build their own tokenomics to incentivize people who can support the record keeping and the transfer itself, and also encourage users to use more to get more discount. So this is the part that the Web3 startups are playing a very important part. So I see these two layers of infrastructure, and they can work very well together in the context of Africa. Yeah.
So you've detailed the infrastructure that lays the foundation for the landscape. How have you seen the landscape of blockchain startups evolving in Africa compared to other regions you've worked in?
Yeah, actually, it's a very good question. You know, I have an Asian background. I grew up in China, and Adaverse also invests a lot of companies in Asia and also United States and a couple other markets. And what I can see in other markets, especially Asian and the US, is that there are lots of crypto native projects where they solve the problem of the efficiency of running a blockchain, the transparency, and also the financial part of the crypto native scene, like the stablecoin swapping, decentralized exchange, ZK rollups, and quite a lot of other very crypto native concepts. But when we see things happening in Africa, actually we see more fundamental products that are solving the real world issues. So we just cover one of the biggest sector, which is the cross-border remittance. But beyond that, we also see many other sectors. For example, the supply chain management, land registration, gaming, medical, and quite a lot other verticals. Founders in these verticals, they are innovative enough to leverage the blockchain and Web3 technologies to solve the real world problems in their sectors. For example, Adaverse invests Checkit, which is the supply chain management company, and also Sitemap, who is solving the land registration transparency problem for the developers and also the users. And we see a lot of these kind of vertical solutions beyond cross-border remittance. It's far more than what we see in other regions where people solve the quite crypto native things. And speaking of the evolution and trends, we see more and more African founders. They started with a Web2, but they leverage more and more, deeper and deeper Web3 concepts. So they started solving the real world issues. And then right now, they use more and more token-related mechanisms like tokenomics to really solve the distribution issue, the fairness, and quite a lot other deeper problems in their industry. I haven't really seen a very big group of founders who really go for tokenizing without solving much problem. But I think it's a really good thing. And I really like this kind of mindsets that African founders have to solve the real world issues.
Thank you for sharing that. So you mentioned in Africa, you see more startups solving fundamental real life issues and challenges. So what unique challenges and opportunities have you encountered while helping to build and scale companies in Africa?
It's a very good question. So as I mentioned, we see a very big bunch of experienced founders in Africa who know what they're doing, who have very solid industrial experiences. But for those who are eager enough to learn Web3, they still need a very good channel to learn it and to get really genuine and solid support. So I see the gap. And that was why Adaverse provide this kind of acceleration program support for our portfolio companies in Africa. So we run a 3-month acceleration program. And in the program, we focus only Web3 related knowledge and know-how. And we equipped the founders in the Web2 background with all the Web3 knowledge we think is necessary. So in the program, we help them to build the product mechanism and the utility of tokens. We help them to consult the technology development of the blockchain, and we help them to build a community and go to market, and also help them to get a follow-on investment from Web3 investors globally. So with all this support, we try our best to make them ready for Web3 launch and also the operation. And I think this is the key value that Adaverse can add to the African Web3 ecosystem. And I'm really proud that we can do this for the past 2 years.
So you highlighted a key point in terms of getting them ready. How do you assess the readiness of African markets to adopt Web3 technologies?
It's a very good question. So I see things in 2 ways. The first is B2C and the second is B2B. So for the B2C part, the biggest use case I can see now is the flow of money, let's say the transfer or the settlement, right? So as I mentioned, quite a lot of companies we invested tackling this issue, right? So this is for B2C. And what is yet to be seen in the B2C part is more like crypto native products. But I believe given time, African will be there. And the other angle is B2B. So B2B, as I mentioned, there will be a lot of different sectors that can leverage the blockchain technology. Let's say the supply chain, the land registration, and anti-counterfeit solution, and so on and so forth. So basically, for this two part, we already cover quite a big number of startups that are adding value.
So what would you say are the factors that contribute to their willingness to embrace this transition to adopt Web3 technologies?
So the simple answer is they see the market demand, right? So let's go back to the cross-border remittance case. So if you are a everyday user in Africa and you have two options, one is to go to MoneyGram to make a transfer to UK, which takes you 2 weeks time and 15% of a transaction fee. And the other option is you use, let's say, BitMama, Kotani Pay, AfriX, those like a innovative app that you make the transfer and then you complete it in 1 minute with less than $1 transaction fee. So which one would you choose, right? So basically, it's very huge market demand for users to save money and save time. So for that part, it's basically the market demand will drive all the different solutions to come out. And the same case for B2B part. The blockchain technology and Web3 mindset can really solve the issue and improve the efficiency and improve the transparency of a certain industry and sector if they really see the importance of efficiency and the transparency.
Interesting. So if we look closely at the work you do in terms of funding and supporting entrepreneurs, do you think your approach to supporting entrepreneurs or founders in Africa is different from how you'd approach supporting founders in other regions, such as Southeast Asia, within the Middle East?
Yes. So based on my experience, the difference is kind of big because the market condition is very different. So in Southeast Asia, so one thing is that the whole market is different, right? Maybe people don't really need to have more like a fundamental solution based on blockchain, but rather more like a enjoyable, interesting things like a GameFi to kill time and to make hustle in Southeast Asia. That makes founders build different solutions, right? Build differently. But in Africa, what I see is that the founders, they are solving the real world issues and challenges. Basically, they try to solve a certain problem that other fail to solve, right? And in that sense, in let's say Southeast Asia or Asia in general, basically the support would be in product, what we can build for fun or for users to have fun, right? And also what we can build to make like a very disruptive, innovative solution that can happen tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, right? But in Africa, things are more straightforward. So what current issue you can solve right now and how you solve it and how you can save money, save time for users, and as simple as that. So the whole market condition and the way of doing business different, I would say. But I think, to be very honest, it feels very much more meaningful to support founders in Africa to solve these issues.
That's great to hear. So if we take a few steps back in terms of before you decide to support founders and startups in Africa, what criteria do you use when considering or selecting startups for investments and acceleration on the continent?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So I will answer in two folds. The first of all is that we also a kind of investor and the criteria is not that different from others. So we're happy to work with very experienced founders who know what they're doing. And also we want to back the founders who have a very reasonable and logical business plan and power of execution. So that is one fold. But the second fold is more important for us as a Web3 focused VC and accelerator. So we really love to see that founders have the innovation and openness for new technologies and willingness to try new things, right? So that is very important. I don't deny that there are a bunch of founders who are very experienced and they can do what they have done to make sure things don't go wrong. But for us, we prefer founders who can build innovative solutions and think out of the box, where it gives us the ground to try new things like blockchain and Web3 together with founders.
So you mentioned that you are drawn to founders who welcome innovation. So how do you identify or build your pipeline of promising founders or startups to invest in?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So basically, we see two things. The first thing is that we will have a discussion with the founders about their product and the thinking behind why and how they build the product, right? So in that chat or discussion, we can see whether or not the founder has the innovative thinking and why they build these features. Usually, they can speak in a great passion about their new feature leveraging blockchain, right? So if we see that, for sure, we see the openness and willingness to try blockchain. And the second part is about the related tractions of that new features, right? So for example, Big Mama rolls out the virtual credit cards. We didn't know whether or not it will be the effective solution for the African users. But with some early stage traction, we can be pretty sure that this is one of the effective solutions. So once we see why they build this product and the early stage tractions, basically it is much easier for us to make decision.
So you touched on a key point there in terms of a early stage traction. So how do you measure the impact and success of your investments and accelerations beyond financial returns?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So let me share how we make decision. So actually we tap in when the founders have the MVP, right? So we tap in the post MVP stage, and we're willing to see some early stage tractions to make decision. That is not only for the product or for the potential of the product, but also we will see how the solution can make impact to everyday users' life, right? So for example, if this solution can really drive the financial inclusion, if this solution can really drive the fairness of the users, if this solution can really drive the financial freedom for the users, then basically it's very positive to us. And we're happy to see that the founders are not just build to earn, but also build to impact.
So I was wondering if we can discuss potentially a specific company that you've supported. Are there any successful case studies from your portfolio that demonstrates the type of impact that you're hoping to make on the continent?
Yes, thanks for this question. So I can remember one of our portfolio companies called Kotani Pay. So they originally started from Kenya, and what they're building is very interesting. So all these Web3 blockchain technologies and products, it seems very fancy, right? So you need an application, or you need a D app, and you need a wallet, and you need to deal with your seed phrase and then connect. So you do a bunch of things, seems very complex, right? But what they build is very simple. So they build a Web3 wallet solution for feature phones, right? The feature phone means it's not a smartphone. It doesn't have the Android system or iOS system. Basically, it's like a Nokia burner. So they build a wallet for the feature phones and for the everyday users in Kenya. And the reason why they build that is because they build a solution for the international institutions and organizations to give the donation to the local people, right? So to me, it's really impactful solution, right? So for all the international donor, the only thing they need to do is to donate stable coin, cryptocurrency, and the Kotani Pay, they do all the dirty work. They converted this cryptocurrency into different kinds of assets and then dispatch through that feature phone wallet, which is more like a keyboard-based solution to the everyday users in Kenya. So from this case, I can really see the impact that Web3 can give, and also the simple solution that they make is really impactful.
Thank you for sharing that. So you mentioned that they built a simple solution for everyday users. So with your expertise in the African market, what are some crucial considerations for businesses aiming to successfully enter the market?
Yes, I can think of three things. The first thing is the innovation, and the second thing is the adaptation. So adaptation is very important because not all the global solution can work locally. During the course of product design, the founder and the team really need to think how to make it work for local users. So adaptation is very important. And the third thing is that the utility or the economy of the token or the Web3 mechanism is also very important, right? So who are paying, who are receiving, who are the benefitor, and who are the supporter. So all these things need to make sense. So for all these three factors, if the founder can really have all of them, I believe they can really make it work for the market.
Fantastic. So I guess to make it work requires partnerships, both local and global. So what strategies have you employed to bridge the gap between African startups and potential investors or partners in other regions?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So remember at the beginning, I mentioned the acceleration program.
Yes.
So we covered the 4 dimensions: the product and token utility, the technical consultancy, the go-to-market strategy, and also the fundraising strategy, right? So to run this acceleration, we have both in-house team and also the external mentors, right? So I can give you 2 examples. The first one is in the technical consultancy, right? So if the founder needs the support and connection with different chains, then we can make the connection. For example, if the GameFi products need a very high performance chains, we will connect them with Solana. And if they really need to have like a very secure and a green chain, then we recommend them to use Cardano. And this is the first case. And the second case is that we also connect the founders with all different resources we have, like a Web3 global investors. So last year, we just ran a very big demo day. So we presented 25 portfolio companies, and we invited more than 150 global Web3 investors, mostly from US and Asia. And we made the connection, and then we facilitate all the communications between the founders and global investors. So in this way, we try our best to connect the founders and expose them with various kind of global resources.
So I'm assuming as part of your acceleration program, you're fully embedded in the ecosystem and you're probably aware of all of the trends that have taken place over the years. From your perspective, what are some of the key trends that you've observed in the African Web3 ecosystems since you started working there in, was it 2018, 2019?
Yes, it's a really good question. So when I started, I saw quite a lot of Web 2 or Web 2.5 style of projects, like the payment based on blockchain and cross-border remittance and settlement protocols. But more and more till this year, I started to see a lot of a few Web3 native projects. For example, play to earn, and even, let's say, online entertainment chat rooms where people can communicate with each other. At the same time, they can earn some rewards based on NFT. So more and more fancy concept coming out from Africa, which is really a good thing. And I believe this year and next year, we will see more and more, let's say, next generation crypto and blockchain solution from Africa.
Thank you for that. So how do you stay updated on the emerging trends and developments in the space?
Yeah. So firstly, we have a really big global network from Adaverse. So we have team members based in New York, team member based in Singapore, in Shanghai, in Dubai, in Saudi Arabia, in Kenya, and in Nigeria, and also in UK. So we have a very big network, and we have the weekly meetings to exchange everything that happened in each office. So we stay in touch with each other and learn things from different regions in terms of trends and news. And secondly, since we have this big multinational team, we can be exposed to the Web3 ecosystem and the founder network in each region. So it's not that difficult for us to know the latest trends and also the most popular Web3 projects from time to time. And not to mention, personally speaking, I keep traveling in different regions, in the UK, in the US, in the Middle East and Asia, in Africa, to conferences and to all the networkings, to keep updated with everyone. And I really enjoy this work. And most importantly, I really would love to share the latest insights and trends to the founder network and to our portfolios.
So from the insight that you gather, from your opinion, what are the most exciting and promising trends that you're currently seeing in the African Web3 space?
Yeah, so for this year, there are a few very hot sectors in the Web3 space. For example, the real world assets, RWA, which means people tokenize the real world assets on chain. So this is highly related to Africa because Africa is so resourceful, like a gold, like a different mining resources, and also the solar power and clean energy and a lot of different things. So RWA is definitely one of the related trends to Africa. Apart from that, I also see the potential of SocialFi and GameFi projects that could be very big potential in Africa. And also the restaking and some crypto native things like DPay. It might be early for African, but I'm very happy to see that there will be some emerging projects from Africa tackling DPay and restaking. Yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant. So if we look past current trends and look at the future, what role do you see African startups playing in shaping the future of the global Web3 space in the next 5 years?
It's a very good question. What I see, if I can only say one word, is the adoption. So I can see a huge potential of mass adoption of Web3 in Africa in 5 years. Typically because the Africa is a very big continent, right? So it's 3 times of China. It's a very big place and with a very big population. And here, if we can play it well, solve the fundamental issues, and we catch up the opportunity to leapfrog, then we can drive very big, massive adoption in Africa. So I think that is the ultimate vision for all the Web3 startups and also our portfolio companies, and also for ourselves.
So if we look closer to home at yourself, where do you see yourself and Adaverse in 5 years' time? What role will you be playing in shaping the space on the continent?
Yeah, thanks for this question. So in 5 years, I can see Adaverse would probably become the most widely spread VC and accelerator globally, right? Because when we started from Asia and then Africa and then Middle East, Saudi now, we have that mission and the path that we really want to cover everywhere in the globe. So that is our mission, to cover most part of the market. And the second part is that I can see myself as a connector, right? So maybe there will be more bigger VCs, great supporters other than Adaverse. But for Adaverse and myself, I really like to become the connector between founders in different regions and also between founders and global resources. So that is the personal vision.
Quote of the week.
As people, we often have quotes, mantras, proverbs, or affirmations that keep us going when times are challenging or when times are good. Do you have one that you can share with us today?
Yeah, so there is an old Chinese saying, 静水流深, which means quiet water flows deeper. So the reason why I share this is because, for most of the founders, they really need to be endurance and persistence to build something and spend years until it can make very big impact and show very big tractions. And it is the case in most areas in Africa, in different areas. So it's difficult to really anticipate very short-term return for what you have started. And it's the same thing I would like to share using this saying to all the founders. Just keep building and keep providing good solutions to your users, to the market. And then, given time, the big success will ultimately come. So that is what I want to share.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's something that will definitely resonate with a lot of the listeners who are founders or business owners, because it is about the long-term journey and path and resilience as well to generate those results. So yes, Vincent, thank you for sharing that. Beautiful. As we've come to the close of today's conversation, and one that I've thoroughly enjoyed, do you have any closing remarks, final calls to action for people who are interested in the work that you're doing or just generally interested in exploring Web3 in Africa?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Tessa. I'm really pleased to share things. And also, if you are a listener from like a entrepreneurship Web3 in Africa, welcome to come to our website, adaverse.co, adaverse.co. You can follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and also submit your business plan on our website. And I really look forward to connect with all you guys. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Vincent Li. Thank you for joining us and highlighting the potential of Web3 technology in Africa and also the crucial role Adaverse is playing in driving the adoption of this technology on the continent. It's been a pleasure having you on the podcast and looking forward to seeing how things develop with Adaverse. And yes, let's keep in touch and see how things build on the continent.
Yeah, let's do this. Thank you so much, Tessa. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone who has listened and stayed tuned to the podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share, or tell a friend about it. You can also rate, review us in Apple Podcasts or wherever you download your podcast. Thank you and see you next week for the Unlocking Africa podcast.